I want all of you to imagine being crammed in a room with hundreds of other sick people, being forced to eat food that literally ruptures your insides. Then imagine being given antibiotics and steroids that keep you alive but don't alleviate the pain from your insides being ruptured. What I just described is the reality that the majority of the cattle that we eat can live every day. From the audience analysis that I conducted, over half of you have no idea where the meat that we consume comes from and the processes that I go through. Hello, my name is Naomi Turner. Today I'm going to discuss with you the practice that's becoming increasingly popular in the agricultural business with feeding our cattle genetically processed corn as opposed to grass. My purpose today is to inform you about the practice and what's wrong with it. Hopefully by the end of my speech you'll understand why it's so detrimental and also become as passionate as I am about changing it. I'm currently a nutrition minor here at ASU and obviously take what humans consume very seriously to the point where I want to study it. Also in high school, I took an AP government course in which we were assigned a topic to research in the agricultural business, and this is the topic I chose. So today I'm going to talk to you about the problems that that feeding our cattle artificial corn the problems that it generates, the causes, and finally the solution. First, let's discuss the problems that artificial corn generates. The biggest problem is the effect that it has on the American people. The corn that is used to feed the cows is actually a corn that makes high fructose corn syrup. Now, Slate magazine says while high fructose corn syrup isn't the worst thing for you, it's a sweetener that doesn't suppress your appetite and it creates new fat cells. According to the campaign to end obesity, 2/3 of Americans are obese. With statistics like that, why should we have meat that has those properties in it? As we all know, obesity leads to heart disease, some forms of cancer, and diabetes. So why should we be eating meat that adds to that problem? Another problem that feeding our cattle genetically processed corn causes is the antibiotics and steroids that are pumped into the cattle. Cattle physiologically cannot digest corn. They have an organ in their digestive system called the rumen that digests grass only and turns the grass into the nutrients that are necessary for them to survive. By feeding them corn, it breaks down that system, and because of that, cattle are now pumped with penicillin and anabolic steroids to make them continue to grow and stay alive. Now, I don't know about you, but every time I sit down to eat a hamburger or a steak, I don't want to be ingesting penicillin and steroids as well. According to Richard Gustafson, who is in the Agricultural Research Division at Princeton University, he says that in terms of the amount of kilograms of drugs used in our animal feed, it surpasses all other agricultural uses and almost totals the amount of medicine used in human medicine. That's a substantial amount of drugs. Another problem that the American people face with the use of this corn is how unsanitary it is. The mixture of the drugs in the corn causes the cattle to grow at an extremely fast rate, which leaves the slaughterhouses extremely overcrowded. And because of this, there's discrepancies with sanitation. And these discrepancies have led to various E. coli breakouts and mad cow disease. According to the U.S. Center for Disease Control, the cause for mad cow disease was that there was traces of sheep bone found in the cattle feed. Now, I don't know about you, but I know that cows are herbivores. Why is there sheep bone in our cow feed? Those types of discrepancies are because of the neglect to take care of the cows because of our basically greed. So, as I just alluded to, some of the causes of this is the two pretty much main themes that American people have, which is laziness and greed. Artificial corn practices are obviously more economically efficient. As Michael Pollan states in his book, The Omnivore's Dilemma, corn is much cheaper and much easier to maintain than grass. And because of this mixture, the cows are able to grow at a much faster rate, which obviously produces more meat, and more meat equals more money. And because there's more meat and it's cheaper to grow, or cheaper to produce, it's cheaper to buy, which is obviously a huge incentives for Americans. We as a society have a chronic addiction to wanting deals and would rather rely on quantity versus quality. Also, we have a severe addiction to fast food, and unfortunately, majority of those corporations do use the corn-fed beef as opposed to healthier options because of how cheap it is. Now that we've discussed some of the causes of these problems and the problem itself, let's mull down some solutions that could possibly rectify this problem. We can take these companies down. The first and easiest is to pay attention and take responsibility for yourself and your health. Don't buy corn-fed beef. When you go to the store, there is grass-fed beef options, which is obviously the more natural alternative, and it tastes better. Another thing that we could do is to contact Congress, more specifically the agricultural committees of the United States, both House of Representatives and Senate. According to the U.S. budget of the 2012 fiscal year, up to $32 billion was subsidized to these direct farm payments, most of which went to farms that produce and utilize this corn. So those two things together, by doing those two things together, we could try and convince Congress that there is healthier alternatives, and their support of those farms is actually leading to the decline of health of the American people. So as a recap, I went over the problems, the causes, and the solutions to help and make the American people more healthy. According to my audience analysis that I conducted, over 87% of you said you wouldn't eat something that was pumped with fats, antibiotics, and hormones. Now that you know the truth, will your eating practices change? Not only for you, but for the greater good of the American people. Food is supposed to nourish us, not poison us.